Hello, my beautiful narcissistic abuse family. I am not my best self today, but I committed to doing this and I did that very intentionally. I put it out that I was going to be live today so that I couldn't back out of it. And last night did not disappoint. Joe and I had a great time. It was date night. Right now, I am going to speak about narcissists and love and their gross misuse of this beautiful topic. And like they do with everything else, they turn it into a manipulation, a form of manipulation, excuse me. So, narcissists, as we well know, are severely emotionally stunted. They are grossly immature. They do not have the capacity to feel substantial, meaningful connections, relationships. So, love to them is like a pawn in this incessant game. They're always like, I put a post up about this a few weeks back on Instagram, and I can't see the chat or anything. How do I do that? Wait, let me do this. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm a rookie. Here we go. All messages are visible. All right, cool. So, I put a post up about this a couple weeks back about how narcissists will say things. It's like their cover line, right? Like all the while they're treating you like garbage, and they'll say, "Oh, but I love you. I love you so much." Like, oh my goodness, I experienced this from both ends of the spectrum. Hey, Carrie Ann, my narcissistic mother would constantly be doing terrible things, totally stabbing me in the back, betraying me, and she'd be like, "I love you, but I love you so much." Or she would be like, "You're always our daughter, Michelle. You'll always be our daughter." Like, what are you talking about? Like, stating a genetic relation, like, does not make for a meaningful relationship. So, another thing that I've heard, that I've experienced, I'll have to say, from a peripheral narcissist, "Oh, I have so much respect for you. I've so Meanwhile, like, this person stabbing me in the back all the day is long. But narcissistic parents will always do that. They'll be like, "Oh, but I love you so much." Like, it absolves them from all the ratchet things they're doing behind your back. They I've said this as well in terms of the toxic duo. They don't have a substantial, meaningful relationship. It's more like an evil union. Like, they they don't like love involves vulnerability, right? So when you love someone, you have to leave yourself. Oh, sugar. All right, I'm sorry. I'm doing this on my phone so that I don't lose the connection because my data is better than the internet in my house, and it just like hiccuped on me. I hope you guys are still here. Um, but in terms of substantial relationships, narcissists are unable to have that reciprocal love and respect. Oh, thank you. They do not, they just don't have what it takes. And I've heard this throughout my life, and I don't know, you guys. It's hard to like. I recently watched The Wisdom of Trauma. It's by Gabor Mate. He's a doctor. He's so brilliant. I love the way he kind of equates like mental psychological issues to like later in life, to your childhood. Everything relates back to our childhood. Like, nobody screws us up like our parents, right? But Gabor Mate even was asserting that physiological manifestations of trauma, that results in our illnesses. Hello. But it's so cool. Like, if you are interested you get a chance, I highly recommend getting it. It's only available like on the internet. You have to make a donation or something. I can actually read. I'm super excited right now because I do have reading glasses. Wait, shoot, where'd it go? There you go. You'll feel so much better when you gain distance from those people. I was the black sheep in a narc family system, still working on cutting them off permanently. I am with you. It is like, it's a major undertaking, right? It's like, so I initiated breaking contact in August of 2019, earlier in the year. I'm so grateful that I am essentially documenting my whole journey. Like, I didn't know what I was doing. I was kind of just fumbling through this, and I called it my public therapy, but it has grown into such an amazing community, and we're like a family. Nobody understands what we have endured, like fellow victims, you know? Like, you can't talk about this kind of stuff to people that have been on the outside of it because no one can possibly comprehend how evil and insidious we have been treated by our own parents. I I just watched something they were talking about, like, our parents are adult children essentially. They have, they were abusive and dysfunctional, codependent. I love this. I'm so excited that I can read these. Our parents are just children that grew up to be dysfunctional adults, and they're essentially children with adult powers. Parents are both codependent. Our parents are both codependents that never woke up. Yeah. I also feel grateful about realizing what happened to me. It's it's so freeing to know exactly. It's like a double-edged sword. It's like you're so excited to like finally put a name and like to validate that you're not the crazy one in the equation, right? Like, I mean, I don't like to use that word, but like you're not the one, you're not off base. Like, all of your suspicions and all of your feelings are totally legitimate, and you have been disrespected and mistreated all of this time. And when you respond to it, you react to it, you have legitimate, genuine emotions, and your parents are like, "Oh, you're too sensitive," or they just blatantly denounce or discredit how you're feeling, like your anger or your sadness or something. It's like, oh my god, they're narcissists. Like, how did I not know this? I went to college and I got my master's degree in psychology, and I'll tell you, it wasn't until I was 38 years old and I stumbled on a long after my college, education was completed. I stumbled upon like a YouTube video, and I was like, oh my god, hey, from North Myrtle Beach. I am here in North Jersey. Oh, you guys are so cool. I love this. Bless you too. God bless all of us that have endured this garbage, man. It just breaks my heart. And that's why I do this. I'm going to tell you as well, like, I have been wanting to say this. I know that, like, I'm not super sophisticated with my videos, and I don't do crazy editing or anything because I like the authenticity of it. Like, we strive to be the polar opposite of the narcissists that mistreated us and hurt us throughout our lives, right? So that's exactly what I'm doing. I I try to be like completely authentic and transparent, and this is what inspired me. So like, I follow an influencer that I totally love, and I caught up with her on YouTube, and she was making YouTube videos and stuff. And then I got onto Instagram, and she started getting like really big, and she did something where she edited a video and put like music in the background, and I was like, "Oh, I do not like this." So that's why I just keep it simple, and I love relating to you guys, and the validation goes both ways. Like I'm putting my experiences out there because I want you guys to know that this is not okay. This is not normal. We have legitimately been mistreated. My dog's over there in the chair. And it's real. Like all the gaslighting, like all the backstabbing, all of that stuff was definitely happening. And what I was saying was about our parents, like they were severely disordered and then they just grew into adult bodies and they still have that arrested emotional, status. They are not able to provide us with the essential emotional support that we crave, that we need as human beings. I love this. Gabor Mate said it again. I'm going to probably quote him a lot because I literally just watched the movie yesterday or Friday. I don't know, but it was so dang good. I highly recommend it, like I said. But he said abuse isn't necessarily like someone doing something to you, it could be the absence of them providing you with something essential. Like, definitely, like that just hit the nail on the head for me. It's like we were not nurtured, we were not provided with love and affection and all of those things that people equate to like your family, like your parents should be providing you with these things, right? You know what is so crazy to me? It's like we don't realize how bad it is until we grow up and experience genuine relationships, which the narc also isolates you from doing in your younger years because that makes you easier to control. Because, if you don't know any better, if you have nothing to compare it to, they can just continue to mistreat you accordingly. And I've said this before, like in my Instagram, I've talked about it a lot, that like we don't have substantial friendships. We grew up experiencing throughout our lives. Like whenever you started to get close to somebody or, you know, we're establishing a meaningful friendship or relationship, what would the narc do? They would come in and like plant something in your head about this person to make you kind of question what you're experiencing, to make you question this person and whether or not they have good intentions. Like our parents have so much influence over us as young people, young human beings. And oh, I think back, it really like sickens me, to be honest with you. It's like I was always the black sheep and I was pretty outgoing and social and I would make friends and I would just I would be craving that relationship, right? Like that reciprocal caring and love and affection. And that's why like I started having like boyfriends like in elementary school, through middle school, through high school. But then, again, double-edged sword, I was like I was so like disordered myself from being raised in this toxic environment. I was not able to make myself emotionally available because you don't know what that is when you grow up in this type of household where there is no legitimate or substantial connections, relationships. Narcissistic parents will absolutely just divide and conquer. That is their strategy. When you have a sibling, they'll turn siblings against each other. They'll turn the other parent against you. All of it. Because they don't want people to get together to compare notes. They don't want you to legitimize each other's feelings, to validate each other like, yeah, mom's a jerk, or she did this to me, she did that. My another thing I've discussed is that narcissists can typically be hoarders, or they substitute material items for deep, meaningful connections or relationships. So my narcissistic mother used to constantly buy things, or just later in life, they get worse as they get older. And my narc mother used to essentially shop in the clearance section of places because it was whatever was convenient for her. She loved the thrill of the hunt, but they don't pay attention to your needs or your wants. They'll just give you meaningless crap to kind of throw it at you, like, oh, I care about you, I bought you this, or I bought you that, or like, especially for your children, they just give you things that you don't need and you don't want because it was just gratifying for them to make that purchase. And it's like, okay, like, you don't see me, you still don't see me, you don't, like, I remember saying one time to the enabler, I was like, gosh, like, I would much rather have a real mother. I would much rather her spend time with me and my children than to throw gifts at us. And he actually literally said out loud, well, this is what mommy does. This is how she shows her love. I was like, wow. They just reaffirm each other's, like, they try to normalize their dysfunction, excuse me. They just reaffirm each other. And it's like, you think there's got to be, like, some sanity here. I've got to have, like, one parent that I can go to, that I can speak sense with, that is sensible, but typically they're both disordered. And I've talked about this. The enabling parent is, like, just as bad as the narcissist, and sometimes worse. And they're just constantly, like, they have each other's backs. And back to my initial topic, narcissists don't know what true, genuine love is. So rather than love and the meaningful, definition that we all have, they'll equate love to loyalty. So by severing ties with them through initiating no contact, we're not loyal, so we must not love them, right? They love us in their world of delusion. They love us, in their twisted, defining, however they define it. They think they love us, or by, like, throwing us, meaningless gifts and things like that. But yeah, the toxic duo just had an anniversary, and I called it, like, just the anniversary of their evil union, because that's what they are. They're just protecting each other, basically, and their dysfunction, so that they don't actually have to face it. They protect one another. The enabler is, like, the henchman for the narcissist. I'll always say that. But he's, like, the gatekeeper too. Like, I would go to him time and time again, and I'd be like, she did this or she did that. Like, I can't believe this is happening. And he would be like, she loves you, she's your mother, or whatever. And it's like, narcissists, when they have children, back to, they are just disordered prior to having children, and then they have children, and it's like, they look at us like their property to treat as they want. We owe them. That is the way narcissists perceive their children. They don't have a genuine affinity towards us. They just want to abuse us accordingly. Gabor Mate also said that typically this narcissistic abuse, it's multi-generational. So we've all, talked about that. Like, our parents were probably raised in dysfunction, more likely than not. So they actually see it like, you have it better than I did, like, that's how they look at it. instead of, where we're at. Like I'm a mother and I just treasure and cherish our children, and I love and respect them for the beautiful little individuals that they are. I mean, there's nothing more fun than that, right? Like when your kids get their own little personality, like Joe and I talk about it all the time, and I'm like, gosh, like what did we laugh about prior to having kids, right? You forget. But I just love them and appreciate them for who they are. And narcissistic parents see us as like an obligation, but then they want to reap the benefits from having children, right? Everything is to serve themselves. So they want to cherry pick what they want to take from our lives. When I was growing up, I was a fawn. That was one of my trauma responses. So I was always looking to make everybody happy because I'm empathic. Most of us are. You just have that sensitivity inside of you. You're super attuned to other people's feelings and you want to make everyone happy, right? So I was like excelling in school. I was like honor roll, like advanced placement and stuff. That's what a lot of us do, right? We're just super perfectionists in response to this mistreatment and disrespect that we're suffering at home. So in middle school, I was like, my grades aren't going to count for anything. I'm just gonna goof off because I hated algebra. I'll never forget Mrs. Chinchuli. I hated algebra with a passion. And I was not doing well. I was essentially like, I guess at some point I must have been like failing or something. Well, the toxic duo swooped in and they just exploited that to the oh my god, Michelle is so troubled. I don't know what's wrong with her. Like, and then they're the victims because that's the consistent narcissistic narrative. So they were the victims of me as a troubled teenager, right? And that's something that they'll always default to, which sucks because as young people, we start to wake up to our needs not being met and feeling mistreated and disrespected. So they just put it in that category. Oh, she's a troubled teenager. And they get away with it, right? Because society never wants to look at the parental unit as being the issue. It's got to be the child, right? So I was kind of failing like algebra, and they had a meeting with my teacher, and they were like, "Oh my god, I don't know what's wrong with her." Blah 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 blah. And then the next year, freshman year in high school, I was taking pre-calculus. I got 103. I knew what I was doing. I was time management is what I liked to call it. I didn't want to dedicate myself to algebra when I didn't like it, and I knew it wasn't going to count in my school career in general. But that's what I'm saying about like cherry picking. So like the narcissist cherry picked that aspect. Like they'll never speak about how I did awesome, how I was in advanced placement or honor roll or any of that. I got an academic scholarship to college, but they'll cherry pick like my 8th grade performance in algebra. Say, oh, she was doing so bad. Like, I don't know what's wrong with her. Like, poor me, poor me, poor me. Because that's the incessant narcissistic narrative. And I think back, man, and all the things I accomplished, like sports that I played, and they just weren't there for me. Back to what I was saying about, like, you don't realize how bad it was until you're out of it and other people are able to, give you their support. Like I said, I'm like 40 now, and my husband speaks about my experience with me all the time. He's like, oh my gosh, that was so bad. It was so bad. Like, I was never physically abused. Nobody ever hit me or anything, but gosh, like, emotionally, I was left on my own. And that's a feeling that we have throughout life because of this. But I was saying, like, speaking about outside people, weighing in on our experience and say, like my husband was telling someone at work about things that I have shared with him that I've experienced throughout my upbringing, and she was just like, wow, I didn't know it was so bad. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, yeah, it was bad. I'm My feelings were substantial and valid this whole time. So, like I said, I didn't learn about narcissistic abuse until early 2019. I did take a course on coaching, and I opted not to go that route. As I was saying as well, I went to college for psychology. I got my master's and my undergraduate degree both in psychology because something that I love that I heard as well is that we gravitate to that field because we so desperately wanted someone to take the time to understand us. So we're always trying to like help everyone else, right? We're always trying to understand everyone around us. One of my professors in college told me that I'm sure you guys will relate to this. I gravitate to people that have issues or problems because I just want to help them. I want to cultivate their best selves. And I think that's what kept us trapped. That's what kept me trapped in the abusive cycle with the dysfunctional unit for so long. Is that I just kept thinking, oh, if I communicate better, or if I do this or that. I thought when I went to college, like, okay, this is gonna be it. This is gonna be the ace in the hole, right? Like, they're gonna respect me because I'm an adult and we're gonna have a formidable relationship. And that was not the case at all. They just continued to. They actually get jealous of you because you have your youth ahead of you. It's wild. Like, things that you would never even conceive of as a parent, that's what they're doing. Like, so my narcissistic mother was envious of me because I was living my best life. I was doing great stuff and I joined my sorority and I was playing volleyball in college and I was having a great time. But all the while, you guys, I was supporting myself. I was financially supporting myself. Like, no doubt the toxic duo behind my back, you know, claimed all of my financial achievements as their own. Like, no doubt they led people, even if they didn't outright say it, they insinuated that they were paying for my college or supporting me as I was living off campus. And, you know, at one point I lived with my volleyball team. There was like 5 girls in one home because it was college, right? That's what we did. And everyone was like completing their schooling. They were not working. Like, I was busting my butt and I was like, how is everybody doing this? How is everybody affording all this stuff? You know, later in life, as I opened my eyes to it all, their parents were actually supporting them. Imagine that, right? And when I was in college, I was later, you know, when I was completing my graduate degree, I was diagnosed with MS, and that's when my physical health started to suffer. So it was just unbearable, right? We get to that point. And then later in life, like I said, my son, Joey, caught brain cancer, and just all of the ugliness came to light with the dysfunctional unit and my parents and just the lack of support. Last thing I'm going to talk about, you guys, is that if you choose to, it's not really a choice. We're left with no other alternatives. But if you do choose to go contact with your narc parents, your toxic parents, it often involves cutting off everyone, cutting off the entire extended family. Because, again, this is multi-generational, this is cyclical. All of these people are disordered, and they just, by turning a blind eye to what is going on, to the, you know, abnormal dynamic, it's like everyone is essentially, it's abuse by proxy, or I'm sorry, my voice is. I am a mess today. I told you guys, like, Joe and I had a fun night last night, and I'm exhausted. I'm thrilled that I committed to this by putting it out that I was going to do this today. If I didn't do that, I wouldn't be doing this. Gotta change your life if you want to change your life, right? It's the little things, they add up. But okay, last thing. My book is going to come out probably more like the end of the year, like December. Um, it's the publication company. It's like taking longer. Like we still have to go over the cover and the format and stuff like that. But I'm super excited about it. I I love the validation we all provide to one another. I'm so grateful for all of you guys. And like I said, I know I just keep it simple. I don't do any fancy editing work or production stuff, anything like that, because I just like being authentic and transparent, and I just like connecting with you guys. I chose not to go the route of coach or charging for any of this kind of stuff because I don't have it in my heart, because I like making all of this information, everything accessible to fellow victims, because we've all been through it and we're all here to support and validate one another. And I'm super grateful for that with all my heart. So I love you guys. Thank you for being here. Have an awesome rest of your day. Thank you for being here. So I think I did this right. I'll see you guys. I will have a video prepared next week. I promise. See, so now I have to do it because I put it out there.